Hey everybody, welcome to Drive-Thru Review for 98. Today we're going to take a look at One Night Ultimate Vampire. And this is a standalone game, also an expansion to One Night Ultimate Werewolf, which is my number 3 game of all time when I did my top 100 however long ago. So probably a little bit of a spoiler in terms of if I'm going to like this game or not. This, like I said, you can combine this with pieces of One Night Ultimate Werewolf. You can play it by itself. It has the same sort of mechanics and things. You're going to be using the same app, but it has some new interesting twists on that game. So let's just jump in and take a look at some of the new stuff, and then I'll tell you what I think of it. Okay, here's all the stuff you will get in a One Night Ultimate Vampire. You do get a fair bit of roles. Like I said, this game can be played by itself. The other thing that you're going to get here are these clarity tokens here. So each player is going to start with one of these face down in front of them, and then you have these other marks here. So you've got here Vampire, and you can see it's got the same back as the clarity tokens. You've also got Love here, and you've got Fear and Assassin, or Mark of the Assassin. So depending on which roles you have, you might put some of these out here, and then they will possibly be distributed to players. So each player in front of them is going to have a face down roll card, and you can see it's got the same back as a werewolf, and you're also going to have a face down clarity token in front of you. And then through the course of some of the different dusk and night actions, there's actually a new phase here, dusk, and then possibly night, and the app is smart enough to allow you to do that. Then you will be able to distribute and swap out these tokens. So a vampire player might take, whoever the Cupid player is, take their clarity token, put it here, and then put this vampire token there, so that will mark them and they've been bit by the vampire. Or Cupid herself might take 2 love tokens, and then they will put that in front of 2 players, like so. So after the dusk actions have happened, either Cupid has done her stuff or the vampires have done their stuff, then players may or may not, depending on which roles are in play, get a chance to look at their tokens, so they're going to know who's in, if they've been changed and so on. And then you'll close your eyes, and you'll go and do kind of the normal night actions. Now, for example, anybody that was marked in Love, they'll be able to open their eyes and then look around and see if they see each other. So that's actually kind of funny, which I'll talk about in the review. But some of these, like if you get feared, and this is the count that will do this, then you won't be able to actually use your night action. And of course, if you're a vampire, then you've been marked as the vampire, so you're now on that team. And it's this typical win condition. So after everybody's done that, you have a period of discussion, and then you kind of do 3, 2, 1, and everybody points. And then, so if you kill a vampire, then the villagers win, and if you don't, then the vampires win. Now you can, as I said, mix this with One Night Ultimate Werewolf, and there's actually 3 teams. So if you're a vampire team, you'll win as long as 1 werewolf is killed and no vampires are killed, and vice versa if you're on the werewolf team. If you're a villager, you want 1 of each killed. 1 vampire and 1 werewolf. And you've got a lot of sort of permutations on kind of your basic werewolf roles. You've got Renfield, who's kind of like a tanner, but he can see who the vampires are. So he's trying to get himself killed, but he can also see who the vampires are. He doesn't want any of them killed. You've got the assassin, who can put the mark of the assassin. They're only going to win if that player was killed. So that will add an interesting dynamic. Then you've got the traitor. So that if you're the traitor, you only win if somebody on your team is killed. And that could be any team. You're just a traitor to that team. But typically you can't look at your clarity token or whatever this token may be once you go into the day phase. Okay, so that's One Night Ultimate Vampire. What do I think of this? I think this is a must get if you've got One Night Ultimate Werewolf. It adds a bunch of new roles and kind of new lies, basically. So you've got to come up with new lies and new things to sort of worm your way around. But there's a couple of roles that really kind of like seal the deal for me. The first one I've talked about a little bit, it was Cupid, and the whole aspect of you make 2 people in love, which fits the vampire theme, kind of the Dracula theme, because there's a very kind of weird love story as well. So that kind of fits the theme. But then the whole thing of like opening your eyes and looking at somebody, and you don't know if it's another vampire or it's another villager or who's what. And so you can really mess with people at that point, and just, as comfortable as you may or may not be with your group, that just allows for some very interesting dynamics. So you could just message each other kind of like outside of the game or with the game. You're like, I'm a vampire, you know, or whatever. You can just do stupid stuff like that. So that's cool. I like that dynamic. There's a similar dynamic with the assassin, or I should say with the apprentice assassin. So the assassin will choose somebody, mark them with the assassin. Once they're done with that, if the apprentice assassin is in there, they get to look and see who the assassin was. They don't see who they marked. But then they're like, okay, you're the assassin. So they actually win if the assassin themselves is killed. Even if they're killed, they'll still win if the apprentice assassin is killed, or if the main assassin is killed. And so that's another one kind of thing. That whole like opening your eyes at like one point, kind of between that dusk and night phase kind of thing. That's a really cool, nice twist for players that have played this a lot. Now, like I would said, this is a must get. I wouldn't necessarily get this if you didn't like One Night Ultimate Werewolf, and I wouldn't necessarily get this one first because it's a little bit more involved with the tokens and everything, and it's not just a, you know, very basic kind of roll selection deduction kind of thing. It adds a little bit more layers to it, but it is going to inject the game, I think, with more life. And I haven't played it with, you know, all three teams. I really want to try that. I was kind of hoping to do that, but I just said, we haven't been able to get that together. So I think we're just having fun with this. And you know, I know my group's played it more than I have even, but I really want to try it. It looks really cool. I think you need like a big group, and we haven't had it where there's been like 8 or 10 of us that wanted to play this all at once. It's usually been like, you know, 5, 6 or whatever. And I think you want like a bigger group if you're going to do that kind of that big epic game with all 3 teams. But I definitely recommend this for anybody that doesn't already have it and, you know, is on the fence. And if you haven't played One Night Ultimate Werewolf, definitely get that. I think the Daybreak expansion is a must-have. I would almost recommend getting both of those because I think that's what took the game to the next level for me, was adding Daybreak. And this one takes it to yet another level just because of this weird thematic dynamics that are in there, and just a lot of very interesting roles, and it feels really fleshed out. I'd be surprised if they add anything more to this, but you never know. So definitely take a look at this one if you like this style of game. Thanks.